Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So here we are back at Offsite for our spray wall / campus session. Now, the reason we are doing our spray wall day / strength and hangboard on day 1 instead of day 2 is simply because tomorrow is the day of the competition. For those who missed the last episode, I mentioned that me and the MCNAMEES would be taking part in a local competition called the Campus Cup, kind of just for fun, and there are some other strong guys going to it as well, so it should just be some good practice. So the competition tomorrow is going to feature a scramble qualifying round plus a final, which basically works perfectly as a substitute for my double bouldering session in this training program. So I'm basically just going to treat that as my double bouldering day and switch the order of the 2 days that we do. So I'm just doing my spray wall session, hangboard, and workout today, and then we do like our double day of bouldering tomorrow, which is the competition. That being said, actually, I end up skipping my workout today like I'd planned to, just so I save a little bit extra energy than I normally would have for the comp tomorrow, just because it's always nice to do a comp, no matter what degree of importance it is, fresh, or at least close to fresh. So on that note, I also have to make sure that I control myself in the spray wall session and make sure I don't totally wreck myself. So here we are starting on one of the new bowlers that I made for myself. And I should also mention that this spray wall session is a bit different from the first one we had at Offsite, because this is the session where we do spray wall first, followed by campusing. So basically the order is going to be flip-flopping as we go through the program. On the first half of the week, we'll do 45 minutes of campusing, followed by up to 30 minutes of spray wall. And then the second half of the week, we do the session as 45 minutes of spray wall, followed by up to 30 minutes of campusing. So it just gets flip-flopped. And like I mentioned in the program breakdown, this is something new that I am experimenting with. I have never done my spray wall sessions as like half campus, half spray wall. I'll usually just do a longer session as one or the other. But for those who didn't watch the program breakdown, I can understand it's like quite long and it's kind of boring sometimes. So I want to mention this idea because I think it's pretty important for the training we're doing going forward. But that idea is that by doing the spray wall training half and half, I want to try and keep the campus movement patterns really fresh in my mind throughout the whole training cycle, leading up to the competitions. Because if I was to only do like one campus session and one spray wall session a week, I only end up doing those sessions like once every 6 days. But by doing half and half every spray wall day, I'm doing campusing more frequently, and I keep those dynamic movement patterns really fresh in my mind, and it helps me feel more powerful throughout the training cycle and more coordinated on a lot of comp style boulders. So that is the logic behind that. And this is something I've never done before, so I hope that it has a good effect. So, like I was saying, this session is our spray wall focus day. So I'm trying a lot of new bowlers that we didn't try in the last session. I was actually quite tired from the campusing last time, so I only got on one sort of moderate boulder and we mainly just stuck to campusing. So all these boulders that we're trying here are very new. I have not tried them before, and so I had to kind of spend this session sort of forerunning them and making sure that they were possible. So the first one we did was pretty solid. It went nice and comfortably. And then the next one was definitely quite a bit harder. That one will take quite a bit more work, I think. And I had to tweak that one a couple times, like edit like a foothold or two. But then I think I ended up with a good, solid final product, which will make a good project. But anyway, it was an extra quick spray wall session, actually, I forgot to mention. So normally the session is 45 minutes of spray wall, followed by up to 30 minutes of campus. But just because the comp is tomorrow, like I said, I decided to schedule the spray wall session as just 30 minutes. So reducing it by 15 minutes just to make sure that I really reined it in for tomorrow and had a little bit extra freshness on my side. So it was a super quick spray wall session, just 30 minutes long, and I cut it at exactly 30 minutes. I was happy with myself. I didn't get caught up in trying that last project, even though it was quite cool. And so now we move on to the campus session, which is, like I said, up to 30 minutes. So since I can stop the campus session kind of whenever I want, the idea with this session was that I just kind of wanted to try this pinchy boulder that we were trying in the last session for like a few attempts. And then if I sent it, I would just call the spray wall session there. So here I am trying it. We are at 15 minutes on the clock at this point, and I'm getting closer and closer to this move. And I think that I just need like the send pressure to stick it. So I get super close on this attempt. And then, yeah, like even though I haven't stuck this move to the white hold individually yet, sometimes when I'm super close on a move, on like a spray wall boulder especially, I find that really all it does take is the extra send motivation to help you stick a move like this, which was the case here. And it's funny how that works. Even though I have tried that move with like way more energy on my side, obviously when I try it individually, sometimes motivation and psych is more powerful than energy, I find. Just with that extra motivation to send the boulder helps me stick the move, even though I'm technically fresher when I try it individually. But anyway, that wrapped up a very successful spray wall session. It was successful because I didn't go over time. I kept it super nice and concise, and I even got like a couple sends in, which was nice. So it ended up being 30 minutes on the spray wall boulders, and then I campused for 16 minutes. So nice, short and sweet. And now here we are with my hangboard. Like I said, I decided to skip the workout today. Well, not skip it. I didn't actually program in the workout because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeling like any delayed muscle soreness the next day on comp day, because that's no fun. And I can afford to just skip out one workout on the program. That being said, I always like to stay nice and consistent with my hangs and pinches going into peak season, and I actually don't even like to just skip one session when I'm trying to really hit a targeted peak. So even though we have a comp tomorrow, I still want to do my hangs and pinches because, like I've mentioned a lot, the North American Cups are the biggest focus of the season, and I want to make sure my grip strength is perfectly peaked for these events. And so I'm not going to let just kind of a local competition that's more for fun and more for practice tomorrow interrupt my grip training. So I want to stay consistent with it. And so yeah, it was a pretty decent hangs and pinch session. I was doing 105 on my crimps, which was the same as last session, and my pinches were feeling a little bit weaker today, so I did a little bit less weight than last time. So here we are the next day at campus for the Campus Cup, and like I briefly mentioned, the setters reached out to me and the MCNAMEES asking if we wanted to take part in the event. And when I was first informed about the Campus Cup, I got super excited actually, because I thought it was like a campusing competition. I didn't realize that the gym was called Campus. And I've always wanted to compete in a campus competition. I know Montreal has them from time to time, but I haven't got the chance yet. And so I was like, oh, hey, this sounds like fun. But then it turns out it was just a normal bouldering competition, which of course is still fun. And, that's what I'm all about, is bouldering competitions. So I looked and saw that I could fit it into my schedule pretty well. And here we are. And MCNAMEES were also down, which was cool. And it was also, like I mentioned, there's a really strong turnout for this comp. We had Victor Baudouin was also here, and Hugo Dorval, who was third at the most recent Canadian Nationals, also showed up. And then some other various strong athletes from around Quebec, which there are no shortage of strong climbers in this province. And it's always super motivating to just have like resident strong guys in all of the gyms. So anyway, here we are climbing around in the qualifying round in the morning. So this is just your normal scramble qualifier. There were 42 boulders, and they take your top 6 scores to count for finals, and then finals would be later in the day, and it would be a World Cup format. So here we are getting on like one of the harder ones now. This boulder kind of looks like a paddle at the start. You saw me drop it, and then Kinder went and just did this move foot first to the jug, and he made it look super good. And I think he started a bit of a trend on this boulder and helped make the beginning sequence a bit easier. But I actually really struggled with the ending sequence on this boulder. You'll notice I was super shaky, and Kinder made it look pretty casual. I'd say I was kind of shaky throughout this whole scramble round, and I think that's just kind of how it goes for me in scramble rounds in general. I find that I always just climb very shakily, and I don't know why. I find I'm always a bit more comfortable and relaxed during a 5-on, 5-off round, which you'd think would be kind of the other way around. You'd think one would be more nervous in the ISO format, but I always find myself a lot more shaky in a scramble round just because it feels very chaotic. Whereas in the 5-on, 5-off, I find I just have to focus on what's in front of me and focus on using my comp tactics that I practice a lot, and it helps me focus a lot better. And so yeah, I find scramble, there's just like a lot happening around you, like distractions and things that can, pull your attention away from what the boulder you're trying. Yeah, I find that just makes me usually climb quite shakily in a scramble round. But yeah, we are putting down some boulders. Turns out the boulders in the scramble round weren't too hard. I think they were set quite well for the field. But what ended up happening was that 7 people made finals. So usually it's just 6 that go to finals. But there was a tie for 6th, I guess. So they took 7, and everybody that made finals did the top 6 hardest boulders in the morning qualifying round. I don't know if whoever was on the bubble, like one spot out of finals, I don't know if they did the top 6 boulders as well with just more attempts. I'm actually curious about that, because if everybody that did the top 6 hardest boulders made finals, then that was like quite a nicely set qualifying round. Like that would be a perfect difficulty. And yeah, it was kind of just coming down to attempts to separate like the order of everybody. I think I had, for my top 6 boulders, I had 3 flashes, 1 second attempt, and then 2 third attempts. So I was saying this to the MCNAMEES actually. I find I can't ever call it like a bad round of climbing if boulders go within 3 tries. Like 3 tries is kind of like the the sweet spot, and that's like the bread and butter for comp style bouldering. Is if you're doing boulders within 3 tries, then you're not doing too bad. So it was nice. I think me and the MCNAMEES, I think we all did our top 6 boulders within 3 tries. Maybe one of us had like a 4th attempt boulder or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was a nice qualifying round. It didn't like really destroy us. It was kind of nice that we didn't actually have like some super hard boulder in the qualifying round to start projecting, so that we could save some energy for the final round, which we were all kind of anticipating to be quite hard, because the finals field was actually super stacked for like this local competition. We had the MCNAMEES, myself, Victor Beaudrand, Hugo Dorval, who was 3rd at Nationals. I don't know if I already said that earlier in the video. And then we had Maxime Thuron and Elliot Robert. So there were like a good amount of like national team members and like nationals level finalists. So it was definitely going to be a stiff final round for sure. And that's always a lot of fun and is really great practice. And so anyway, let's start on this first boulder here. You can see I'm getting kind of confused at the beginning of this boulder. So we're standing on these 2 completely dual text footholds. And this boulder was like a nightmare at the beginning. This one was really, really tricky. I was convinced that it was like a spin around move, but it later turns out that you just really had to trust the dual text and stem your way into this position. And then I found a way to jump to the zone hold from facing out. I think that was by design by the setters. And then here you can see I'm getting a nice little reaction for sticking the zone hold. That was the only stick of the zone hold in the final round, which was pretty cool. But I stuck it with like 12 seconds left on the clock or something. At that point, I was just rushing back up on the boulder to try and get a zone. I knew that I probably didn't have enough time for the top. So as soon as I stuck that zone hold, I had a quick peek at the clock. And it said 10 seconds. I'm like, oh crap, I just got to start swinging and jump for this hold. Like, I don't know if I have enough time to really like find a good position. So I didn't have enough time to work with to really milk that move for all it's worth and get the top. But it was definitely a really fun moment to just scramble my way back on the wall and get a last minute clutch zone. But that first boulder was really, really good, honestly. I think that was like all of these boulders actually in finals we're gonna see were probably like perfectly set nationals finals level boulders in terms of difficulty and style and complexity. I think that's exactly what this round was all about, and the setters did a great job at like nailing the difficulty for this field. So I guess I'll give like a little bit of a spoiler. This second boulder here is the only boulder that gets topped, but I think that like at first glance you'd think, oh wow, the round was too hard. Like only this second boulder, it gets 1 top by Victor Beaudrand, who ends up winning the competition. But the first boulder was pretty close to being topped. Like I felt like if I had like 5 seconds more to work with, I could have found a good swing for that move and probably stuck it. And then the last boulder we'll see as well, a few of us have got to like the crux move and fell. And so I think that the boulders were like right on the line of being doable or not doable. And that's always the kind of round that I want to climb in as a competitor and even watch, is like boulders that the athletes really, really have to fight tooth and nail to get to the top. And every top of a boulder really, really means something. And so I think the setters did a really good job at achieving that. Is like if any boulder was to get topped at any moment, it was like a big accomplishment, and it meant that it would be really good for that athlete's score. And the finals that are sort of less appealing to us as athletes are the ones where, you know, you just are trying not to fall. So I just wanted to say this because I think the setters for this event did a really good job. And yeah, these would be like perfect nationals finals level boulders, and was definitely some good practice for the athletes in this round that are going to China for the first World Cup of the season. The MCNAMEES twins and Victor are those climbers going to China. So now this second boulder, as we can see, the MCNAMEES are getting really close to it. I myself never thought to go left hand to the first flat hold. Like that little tiny black dot, like the foot chip, I didn't think that I could cross all the way over. It didn't even like occur to me at all. And the MCNAMEES were super smart to figure out that sequence, but they were getting stumped by this finish hold, which looks like really, really hard to match. And then Victor flashed this boulder. So that earned him to win. And that's pretty impressive. That one was super cryptic and a boulder that would be very, very hard to flash. So now this last boulder, when we turned around for preview, we were just like, oh man, this is gonna be quite the challenge to do at the end of the round. This boulder is quite long and obviously super steep, super physical looking. I really like this boulder. I would say is like quite my style, and I would be excited to try all of these moves and like probably feel like pretty good on them, but it was like too many of these moves in one boulder for me. And I knew that if I had any chance of sending this boulder, especially at the end of this comp, I was gonna have to try and like fly up it and climb as fast as possible, or I would get really pumped. Because I guess I didn't mention this, but I was getting a little bit flash pumped in the qualifiers as well, just out of nowhere. And this has been happening to me a bit in training recently as well, and I don't really know why. But being flash pumped is kind of like on my mind recently, because it just keeps happening to me for some reason. And so I was really trying to fight it. And so actually on that first attempt there, you see I kind of dropped off, and I did that intentionally because I could feel a bit of pump starting to set in as soon as I got that left hand crimp. And I knew that I didn't optimize that first attempt and I was going to be wasting time if I tried to just fight my way through it. So I dropped off and decided to rest up for like a better quality attempt from start to finish, which turned out to be the case. Like I definitely made progress and managed the pump a bit better, but I think I should have actually only tried the boulder twice. So you see here I'm putting another attempt on. I think my second attempt on this boulder should have been my last one, and I should have waited down the clock all the way until the end and gave one really good attempt on, because I was just too pumped at the end here and on my second attempt. And it's always good to do these sort of local events to just remind you of like really important and optimal comp tactics. And this is a good example of that. Going into the North American Cups, I'll have a nice little like refresher in my mind telling me that, okay, Zach, don't make the decision that you want to make the correct decision. And what I mean by that is like, as soon as you fall off a boulder in like a final round or a 5-on-5 off, your immediate instinct is like, okay, I just want to get back on and try it again and do better. And that this is something that obviously goes through every competitor's head. But the best competitors and the smartest ones are the ones who are able to say, okay, I know that I want to get back on this boulder and do better on it, but I have to force myself to rest and just wait down the clock and only try it one more time. And obviously this is incredibly difficult to do because you're putting pressure on yourself by saying, I'm only going to allow myself to have one more try. And that's why it's very hard to do. But when it pays off, it really pays off. And if you have the mental composure to do something like this, you're going to have a better attempt because you'll be less pumped since you really rested for longer and you sort of risked it a bit more for just one more try on a boulder. So something like this is like a very optimal tactic to go for, especially on a boulder like this, a super pumpy. So that was like a good reminder that going into the North American Cups, I need to make sure that I'm making like the optimal decisions. So thanks like Another reason that I'm able to sort of refresh these kind of comp tactics is because this final round was really, really well set. And it was really like high level, comp style, complex setting. So thanks again to the campus setting crew for putting on a really great finals round and a great competition overall. And nice work to Victor for getting the win. And Guy got that last minute clutch zone to put me down into third, which is cool. And here I am, right after they pulled the podium away. I knew what needed to be done in order to stick this last move, and so I was able to stock it right after the final round. And this was like a super cool move. I wish I had 5 more seconds to set up better for this swing move and do it in the round, but that's how it goes. So yeah, that wraps up today's episode. I'm glad I was able to fit in the campus competition into our training program, even though we're like getting super strict. It was quite easy to fit it into the schedule, and it was a good comp tactic refresher, like I was kind of talking about. I really feel like I gained some value from doing this local competition, especially with the strong competitors and the really hard boulders. So it was a good time, lots of fun, got me psyched and ready to go on a North American Cup season with lots of focus. And so now we just continue with the training. I'm really psyched for this nice, strict, dedicated program leading into the season, and so we're just going to continue with that. I'm going to rest now after the comp for a day, and then we'll go do our double day of bouldering, probably at Beta Block, I'm thinking, but we'll see if I change my mind like I always do last second. But probably Beta Block in the next episode, so look forward to that. Insert catchy video intro here.